Good evening, 49er faithful. Welcome to the Tuesday live mailbag episode. As always, I love this show. This is a mix of previously submitted questions, people that have sent in emails to 49ersmailbag@gmail.com, folks that have responded to my tweet in the morning on Twitter with their questions about the 49ers. All of those previously submitted questions will be woven into the program with those of you that are here live in the chat. Shout out to those that were here in the chat prior to the start of the show. We got E. Kim, Sneakerhead, here on the channel coming in just to say what's up. Raphael 562 Niners, also Sneakerhead here. Say what's up, Rob, Sneakerheads, and everybody. Dan coming in again, a Sneakerhead here on the channel, giving the good evening to all the 49er faithful. I do welcome all of those of you that are members of the channel. Just come here to check out the mailbag, have never seen it before. And if that's the case, let me give you a little preview of what's to come. So if you're here live in the chat, you can hit me with any 49ers related question that you might have. Sometimes we even delve a little bit into favorite food items, favorite muscle cars, like you name it. We will get into some topics on this show. You can put that into the chat with an @Rob or an @RobShoe in front of it. That way I know that you're speaking to me and not going back and forth saying what's up to each other within the chat. But I will go through the previously submitted questions in between those. So I'll be bouncing back and forth in between the chat and those previously submitted questions. It is that dead period of the season. So if you are here with me right now, do me that favor and hit the like button on the video if you like the content that I'm putting out there. I'm bringing in Ekim. We've got the live, Rob. As I've said numerous times before, I'll believe Jimmy is traded when it actually happens. We could see that happening in the next couple of weeks. It is rumored that Jimmy's going to start throwing at some point. We've seen news cycles begin to trickle out again, as if the 49ers are trying to capitalize upon the dead month of July where nothing is happening. They said, oh, wait, we're going to have Jimmy start throwing and we will dominate the headlines once again. So, Ekim, I get the skepticism there. I absolutely do. I mean, I said that Jimmy was going to get traded earlier in the offseason. I thought there was going to be plenty of demand for it. Clearly, the surgery threw that off. I'm still holding firm to the idea that Jimmy will be traded, but I totally get those that are extremely skeptical of that happening at all and doubtful of people like myself who still believe it. That's totally fair on your part, Ekim. Absolutely. Caligula coming in. Glad to see you again. Good to see you in here as well, Caligula. All right, we're going to start out with some of the previously submitted questions here. Again, we'll bounce back and forth. Those of you here live in the chat, feel free to put in your questions anytime you see fit. The first one comes in from Dan R. Dan, very excited to get to this one. This one was actually, I took this as the name of the show, right? This one gets creative. Again, I just want to put out there that at times when the question is a little bit longer, I have to lightly edit it. That's always tough to say back to back. And the edited version is going to appear on the screen. So I will read the edited version first that you're seeing there in front of you, and then I will read the entire question as it was originally written. This is the edited version. What do you think of this four-way trade? Assuming a Watson full-year suspension, Mayfield to Carolina, Darnold to Seattle, and Jimmy to Cleveland. Add in draft picks, players, and restructures as needed. Dan, this is creative. I like it. And I'm going to read the entirety of it because there's one piece missing that I edited out for length. What do you think of this four-way trade? Assuming a Watson full-year suspension, Mayfield to Carolina, Darnold to Seattle, and Jimmy to Cleveland. Add any draft picks and players and restructure contracts as needed. In March 2021, Pete Carroll mentioned he had a high opinion of Darnold. It was rumored Seattle would be interested in Darnold if they traded Wilson in 2021. Carroll and Darnold do have that USC connection. All right, so that was the complete piece emailed in by Dan. And I really like this deal. I like this deal for all teams involved. Everybody listed here is looking to make a move, first and foremost. I think when you ask the question, would some of these teams rather have one of the other guys mentioned? Sure. In particular, I could say I think Carolina would rather have Jimmy Garoppolo than Baker Mayfield. But a deal that allows Carolina to dump Sam Darnold probably changes their mind. If they can get rid of the entirety of that contract while bringing in a player that they're more excited about, you could imagine them getting on board with that. What would the Niners need to get here in order to make this happen, right? We didn't mention the Niners part in this. It's a four-way trade. All three of the other teams involved are getting players. You would assume that means the Niners are looking to get some picks. They should take absolutely anything in this particular scenario if it gets all of Jimmy's salary off of the books. If you're able to get the entire $25 million off of the books, 24 and change, whatever it comes out to, that you get back on your salary cap, and you are able to get any type of a pick in return, to me, that's a win, because it looks very possible that the 49ers have to end up cutting Jimmy Garoppolo to get the entirety of that salary back. And in doing so, would get 0 picks in return. Therefore, netting any pick in this trade, in my mind, would be better than that cut option. However, it seems like the Niners are pretty stubborn on their belief in Jimmy Garoppolo's value. So I would guess that they'd be asking for something like a 3rd-round pick, thinking they would accept less than that, but not that they would just take anything that came their way. They have been very selective in the deals they're willing to take for Jimmy Garoppolo. I like this deal. You don't see the NBA could get a 14 deal going all the time. The NBA is just somehow better at getting multiple team deals finished. The NFL, it's pretty rare, in particular, to get a 3 or a 4 team deal. You just don't see them very often. So that's the biggest sticking point to this idea, but I love the creativity. I believe all 4 of the teams would benefit from this trade, and I think the Niners should at least explore it. John Lynch, if you're watching, Dan has come in with a solution to one of your problems. All right, coming back to a question from Raphael here. Very excited for Raphael's question. Terry McLaurin got $53 million guaranteed, and A.J. Brown got $57 million guaranteed. Does Deebo get over $57 million guaranteed or get in between 53 to 57? I don't believe Deebo will settle under $53 million guaranteed. Raphael with a great question, very relevant to today's news, that yes, in fact, Terry McLaurin got himself a new contract. It was something in the neighborhood of 75% of the money was guaranteed dollars. And that is my guess about this Deebo Samuel situation, that he's going to value guaranteed money over most things when it comes to actually getting this deal done. Does he and or the organization actually want a 3 or a 4 year deal? Your guess is as good as mine in that regard. I could certainly make the case that Deebo would like a 4-year deal. This is going to be potentially his only really rock solid big contract. So this is adding years to a deal. So even if it's a 3-year deal, he has 1 year remaining. That would be 4 years out that he would be negotiating the next contract if he gets a 3-year deal, because he still has the 1 year remaining. That would put him, he is at age 26 right now, that would put him at age 30 trying to negotiate his next contract. You can imagine teams would use that age against him in negotiating down and saying, hey, you're 30 years old. You're a very physical playing style. Like, we're just not going to give you that big money. So this is it. This is potentially his one biggest contract in his career, and it could be the biggest contract by a landfall, right? It could be a large delta between this contract and the next one, depending on what happens to the wide receiver market, of course. So does he actually want a 4-year deal? Or, much like his trade request, is he looking to get out of California at the earliest available point? And if you sign a 3-year deal at age 30, he would be able to hit free agency, assuming that the 49ers didn't want to franchise tag him at that point. And he would have a little bit earlier freedom from the organization. So that question I can't answer, whether he would want a 3 or a 4-year deal on this one. But again, I think that he's going to want that guaranteed money, and the 49ers have put themselves in a position where they are going to need to pony up that guaranteed money. So my guess is that his guaranteed money is higher than both of those individual, because I think Deebo and his camp view him as being better than both of those other wide receivers. And I think that they're right about that. Certainly, he can make the case that he is more valuable to his organization than those two wide receivers are to their respective organizations. Deebo and San Francisco are a match made in heaven. I'm looking for over $60 million in guarantees for Deebo Samuel. That is my bold prediction on the contract. It's not as bold if it's a 4-year contract, but if that's a 3-year deal, that's significant guaranteed money. All right, got through 2 of the previously submitted questions. I'm getting back into the comments. Again, bouncing back and forth between previously submitted questions and those that are asked live in the chat. If you're here live in the chat and you're asking a question, just please type in Rob Shoe, something that lets me know you are talking to me. All right, getting into those comments, getting back to Ekim. Ekim was in there. Rob, what do you think of the Terry McLaurin extension? Does the Debo contract, what does it do to the Debo contract talks? Perfect timing, because I just answered that one. Boom. If you missed it, you can rewind 60, 120 seconds. Carlos coming in. Carlos RSD. Rob, hola. Now that McLaurin got paid, how much money should Debo be happy with the Niners? Debo should get to be happy with the Niners. The actual contract, I mean, he's certainly going to be one of the top 5 paid wide receivers in the league after getting the deal done. Do I think he's going to be up above or at the Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill numbers as far as average per year? I'm not so sure about that. Again, I think the primary concern for Debo's camp is going to be the guaranteed money. And I do think he cashes in on the freaking guaranteed money. As I said, 60 or higher is my prediction. Celts Chronicles, Sneakerhead here on the channel. Big Rob, the voice of the faithful. I said on your show in February, I believe Jimmy to Carolina. Cleveland is close to where Jimmy is from. It will be interesting to see how it pans out. I think that either one of those, maybe you're saying Jimmy to Carolina or Cleveland was the prediction. That goes back so far that I can't remember in February, but I will absolutely agree that that's what was said because it's on tape. Somebody could go back and suss it out for us, Kels. So yes, those seem like prime landing spots. Again, the 4-way trade gets interesting. I do not, for the life of me, think that's actually going to happen. But wouldn't that be fascinating if we got into a trade market much more similar to what you see within the NBA? There's, like I said, the NBA is exciting in that regard. I mean, there are some things I wouldn't want the NFL to copy, but the excitement of the trades in the NBA, NFL could improve in that area. Great 1765 is agreeing with me. Look at this. Got to give Debo $60 million guarantee. I'm telling you, that's the number I have my eye on. All right, Ekem asking about these comments on Jimmy G. Rob, what do you think about Julian Edelman agreeing with Martellus Bennett about Jimmy with the 2016 Patriots? I always wonder when Belichick lets go of players. I'm going to get to that one later. It did get submitted as a previously submitted question, Ekem. So I am definitely going to deal with that topic around Jimmy Garoppolo being called a bit of a bitch, just in quoting Martellus Bennett, the words that he used and my feelings around that and the echoing of that sentiment a bit by Julian Edelman, although I didn't think he had the same tone about it that I got from Martellus Bennett's appearance that he had prior on that podcast. Stivers 209 football. Rob Shue, do you have NFL Sunday Ticket? Guess what? Disney and Amazon and Apple and Netflix are talking about buying it in 2023. Pretty cool, right? Look into it. I'm thrilled about that. I have freaking DirecTV only because of NFL Sunday Ticket, but I like to get a bunch of channels as well. So I got HBO, I got, Cinemax, Showtime, and my bill every month from DirecTV is absurd. I will be thrilled when I can walk away from DirecTV, when I can get my freaking NFL Sunday Ticket from, I don't care, I'd like Apple, and then I can cut myself down to just the streaming services. God, I would be excited about that. I do not want to currently add up how much I'm spending on a monthly basis for my options to watch programming. It's absurd. It is absurd. How did we get to this place? Bomber T, Rob, why would the 49ers pay Debo a big long-term contract when they could just make him finish out his rookie contract and franchise tag him for 2 seasons? Seems better for the team that way. Financially speaking, it could be better. You may actually come out ahead, dollars and cents wise. But when you're talking about team chemistry, when you're talking about Debo playing a certain level and having a certain amount of commitment to the team, to the organization, it would send the wrong message. In my humble opinion, it could be done. It might be a cancer within the locker room it might prevent other free agents in the future from seriously considering your organization if you're not willing to take care of one of your own stars. Again, I go back and I look at the DeForest Buckner trade, being unhappy with that, wishing that the 49ers had just paid him in that instance. This feels like another one of those pivot points where the Niners have that option, either pay or do something else with a high caliber player on their own team. I'm just of the camp that you reward those players on your own team. Ellis 10, Sneakerhead here on channel. Rob Shue, do you believe Jimmy G is better than Trubisky, Goff, Mayfield, Mills, and Darnold? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I absolutely believe he's better than Mitchell Trubisky. I absolutely believe that he's better than Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Davis Mills, and Sam Darnold. Do some of those players potentially have higher upsides? Yes. If I were a team that were exploring young quarterbacks, Mitch Trubisky is still an intriguing one to me. Baker Mayfield, I'm not there for the locker room chatter that he brings to the equation. I just prefer to have someone who, much like Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo, is sort of an unquestioned liked person within the locker room. I don't want to have some tension underneath the surface with a Baker Mayfield type where you have a lot of ego. At least that's my interpretation of what Baker Mayfield's personality is like. That's the side of it that I see. But as far as talent, I would take all of those. Mitchell Trubisky, it feels like you still might uncover a little bit of what made him that enticing first-round draft pick. Jimmy G, I feel like you know what you have there. You have a great leader. You have someone who has a quick release, can hit those throws over the middle, will make the boneheaded plays every now and again, and struggles to throw consistently down the field or outside of the numbers, and probably isn't going to improve a whole lot in that regard. So other than Trubisky, if I've got an organization where I'm trying to win now, I'm going with Jimmy Garoppolo. All right, looking at the rest of the submitted submissions. Coach G81, Niners for life. Rob, with any extension for Debo, will he ever truly be happy with the Niners or just play for the cash and get out of town? Will he ever have the same production as last year? That's a fair question, even if he is super motivated. Very rare in the NFL for people to repeat amazing seasons like that. It's such a physical game. I mean, you look back at Chris Johnson, a lot of these running backs that really get a ton of carries. And Deebo did function as a wide back where he was both a wide receiver and a running back, took some of those bigger shots. I think it's a fair question to ask whether he will ever regain the type of statistical season that he had last year. The more important question in my mind would be, can he replicate the embodiment of Deebo on the field where he is a physical wrecking ball, running through people, having that attitude of not being stopped? I do think he's capable of that. From what we hear of the organization, that is his mindset, that Deebo, from the time he was, a young gentleman snatching chains as a child and earning himself that Deebo nickname, that has been his mentality going forward. So that's one of the keys to this. The 49ers need to feel confident that that was the case prior to refusing to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm trusting in the organization that they must have felt that way in the simple fact that they didn't trade Deebo. S coming in. Rob, who's your favorite to start at running back week 1? Is it TDP or the old reliable Eli Mitchell? Maybe even dark horse Trey Sermon. Start who's going to be out there first. I'll go scratch on this one. I'm going to say Elijah Mitchell because he had it at the end of the year. Who gets more carries week 1 could be a different answer. It could be that hot hand, right? I really am viewing this as a 2019 three-headed horse type of a situation. And that could mean that anyone gets more carries. I would guess Elijah Mitchell gets the start. TDP gets 1 or 2 more carries in that game. That's my official prediction. All right. Carlos RSD coming back in. I got to put up Raphael 5629ers for doing the good deed, putting the like and subscribe, everyone up there. I love it. I love it, Raphael. Carlos RSD. Rob, statistically speaking, who do you think will have a better year, Ayuk or Deebo? I have predicted this once before, and I'm sticking with it. I believe Brandon Ayuk has greater receiving yardage. That if you looked at them purely as receivers, you might say to yourself, Brandon Ayuk had the more statistically relevant season. But if you're going to take into account those carries that I think Deebo will have this year, I see him as having greater yards from scrimmage in total. So if you're looking at the totality of the player, I'm saying Deebo Samuel. If you're looking at it purely from a reception standpoint, I've got my money on Brandon Ayuk actually being the most productive receiver. Bomber T, Rob, didn't Deebo send the wrong message with scrubbing his Instagram and having all that drama spread without putting an end to it? It's a double-edged sword paying Deebo. I don't fault players for using all of the leverage available to them. It's not necessarily what I would choose to do myself. I believe that if you have an agent, you're paying an agent. So if you have an agent and you're paying an agent, let the agent do what the agent gets paid to do. And that is have these contentious conversations with the organization. Let them know when you're not satisfied. Let them know when they have provided a laughable offer. Let them know when you're offended. Allow your agent to do that. He certainly took that into his own hands. It was loud and clear to the organization, to the fan base, to the national media, to everyone that was listening that he was discontented. And, you'd have to ask Deebo whether he felt that was his primary goal. If your primary goal is to maximize the amount of money earned, it's hard for me to say whether he did himself any favors with that. Certainly, he put the onus on the San Francisco 49ers. Either trade me or don't. But if you don't trade me at the draft, now you have basically committed to paying me. And that did increase Deebo's leverage in that case. So I believe the 49ers are in a spot where they have to pay Deebo. They chose to keep him. They must have known that they would be able to come to terms. Now they have to put up or shut up in that regard. Again, I wouldn't necessarily have taken that route myself, but I'm not going to criticize it. All right, great one, 765. Rob, that's the reason I will always side with the players in the NFL. These players aren't putting bodies and careers on. These players are putting bodies and careers on the line every week. And for these organizations to franchise tag is ridiculous. Yeah, the franchise tag is a fairly flawed tool as it sits. I would not be surprised if they revisit that at some point. Now that the NFLPA ever agreed to being in there, the owners are going to stick with it because it gives them considerable leverage for upcoming free agents. But again, model what you see in the NBA with these players taking more and more control. I expect the NFL Players Association to get even more creative in the next segment of negotiations. Get that leverage, players. All right, here we go. Lake Show coming in. Who has a better year stats-wise, Jennings or Danny Gray? Jawan Jennings or Danny Gray? Man, that's tough. Overall catches, I'm going to go Jawan Jennings because I think he's going to be shorter yardage. He's going to be used more frequently in the red zone. But total yards, total touchdowns could be a wash. Jawan Jennings is a red zone freaking genius. The man creates separation. I'll go catches, Jawan Jennings. Yardage, Danny Gray. 2 official predictions. I could be wrong twice. This isn't me trying to shortchange it. I'm making 2 guesses, so it doubles my chances of being right, but it also doubles my chances of being wrong. So I've now put those bold predictions out there. Randall says, Rob, you better say Mitchell. I want you to win that. Yes, that goes back to a wager with Randon McMahon, I believe, that you're referring to there. All right, we will come back into the previously submitted questions. Right now, we will come back to the live questions that people in the chat are asking right now. If you're here, go ahead, put your question in there. Type in Rob Shoe, @Rob, whatever happens. Bomber T's got @Rod. I'm still going to read that because I am Rod. I am both Rob and Rod. That's how I roll. But this is a previously submitted question. This one comes in from Korean 49er. Do you see any trades during training camp? I also don't see Deebo dropping his demands for a trade, even if the 49ers offer a huge contract. All right, so here's what I've got to say about that one. I still think it's possible, but not a certainty with regard to the trades. I see a crowded linebacker room with multiple players set to hit free agency next offseason. It's very rare that teams want to let quality players they don't intend to re-sign leave the organization without some sort of recourse. Will they get some type of compensatory draft pick? Yes. What type of a contract would a linebacker get? Would it actually net a reasonable compensatory draft pick? Who knows? Much easier to lock in an actual trade for the 2023 draft. So I could still see a Dre Greenlaw trade for something around a 5th round pick. Anything less than that, it's better to have the depth in the linebacker room. Anything more than that, I struggle to see a team giving up that much draft compensation for a linebacker, one that didn't play all that much last season. Other than that one particular move, I'm not predicting any trades for the remainder of the offseason, barring injury, of course, and barring the Jimmy Garoppolo trade, which is absolutely happening. Absolutely happening. But Korean 49er probably does not believe me on that one, and I don't blame him. For Deebo, I still do think that money fixes this. I know it seems like it's deeper than money, but money fixes a lot of things. All right, we're going through a buy or sell segment. Notorious GAV has come in with 4 buy or sells. We're going one by one. Notorious GAV. Buy or sell. Kerry Hyder will record more than 5 sacks. All right, so there's 3 seasons in Kerry Hyder's career out of 5 where he's played 15 or 16 games. His rookie season, he only played 1 game. In 2018, he only played 7 games. So of those 3 seasons where he played either 15 or 16 games, he exceeded 5 sacks twice. Both of those times when he was paired with Chris Kocurek. So in 2016, he got 8 sacks in Detroit with Chris Kocurek. And in 2020, he got 8.5 sacks with us. So I'm taking the over on this because it's all about that coaching for Kerry Hyder. He's got it again. He's getting over 5 sacks. Let's go, Kerry. All right. This next one, you know he had a juice question. You know Notorious GAV brings in the juice questions. All right, buy or sell. Kyle Juszczyk will record more than 300 yards and 2.5 touchdowns. So this is yards from scrimmage, right? This is not just rushing yards. This is not just passing yards or receiving yards. This is yards from scrimmage. That's fair, though. I didn't actually take into account passing yards as I say that. Every now and then, Juice throws a freaking pass. But here was my research. 4 seasons with the 49ers. He's exceeded the yardage total in 3 out of 4 seasons with the Niners. And in the 4th season, came damn close to it, like was at 280 yards from scrimmage that season. In the touchdowns, though, he struggled. He only exceeded that 2.5 touchdown total in 2020, and he exceeded it by a few touchdowns that year. There are going to be more mouths to feed on this offense, and goal line carries could be going to a heavier running back in TDP and potentially to Trey himself. So because of the touchdown totals, I'm taking the under, again, only because of the touchdowns. All right. Again, Gav coming back in, buy or sell. Buy or sell. Trey Lance is a captain on the 49ers. I'm 1,000% buying this, Gavin. 1,000% buying this, that Trey Lance is a captain because he's earned it, but also because if he didn't earn it and they didn't make him one, I would actually be worried if he wasn't a captain. And I don't think that the 49ers want that type of negative publicity about the young quarterback. Last buy or sell coming in, Mike McGlinchey had improved his game, i.e. his stance or whatever, before he went down last year. All right, so I got in, started looking up. PFS was what I had to turn to here because, admittedly, I didn't have enough of a memory of Mike McGlinchey's performance last year. I didn't go back today and watch all of the snaps either. So this isn't a fully informed opinion. This is my memory that the line struggled early last season and my research that indicated his combined grade between passing and rush blocking was a 69.8 last season. So not great before going down. 2020, he had improved to a career-high 91.3 run blocking grade, but his pass blocking grade was a career low at 58.3. So the average of the two would put him, somewhere in the 75 range. Last year's grade combined for 69.8. So I got to take that as a downgrade. And again, it does match up with my memory of the 49ers offensive line struggling a bit more early in last season. Shout out to Gav for the quick buy sell segment. I love it. All right, I'll be coming back in for a question from Nuri asking about, again, we've got a juice reference. We'll be back into the juice reference in just a moment. Looking back for your current questions here live in the chat. All right, we're starting out with the Rod question. Bomber T, I like it. Rob, then what's wrong with the 49ers using their leverage with Deebo? Maybe they want to make an example out of him. Okay, so this is in reference to my statement around Deebo using all leverage available to him. The reason that I don't root for the organization in that regard is that I don't generally, in business dealings, I don't generally side with organizations. I feel more attachment to the human being in this respect. If I thought that there were a player who were unreasonably holding out for an amount of money that they weren't worth, that they didn't deserve, I might side with the organization and say, hey, you should either let this player walk and test free agency, trade them, or look at a franchise tag situation. I don't feel that way with Deebo Samuel. I believe he has earned this upcoming contract, and it's a negotiation between an organization and an individual. I'm more attached to the individual in this case, even though I'm an enormous 49ers fan. I don't see him, Deebo, trying to take advantage of the San Francisco 49ers, so I don't view it from a team perspective. I view it more from a corporate perspective, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. I'll try to clarify a bit. But I'm more on the side of the individual in that instance. All right, great one, 765. Rob, Deebo carried our offense last year, and in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, we lost because we stopped going to Deebo. Pay that man. He deserves it. This is a good illustration of how I feel Deebo has, in fact, earned this big contract, even if there is a standoff between both sides. Peter Lee coming in. Rob Shue, do you think Shanahan will keep the same pass-run ratio for Trey Lance, just like he had done for Jimmy in the past few seasons? Trey is 20 to 25 passes per game. I do believe that you'll have that same sort of number of passes. I'm actually going to get to the run-pass ratio in just a little bit. 2 questions away. Swan Song came in to ask at the end of the 2022 season, do you think the Niners will have a 50-50 split of run and pass plays? So I'll talk about the split and run and pass plays in just a moment. Only got 2 questions to get to before that of the previously submitted. But with regard to the number of passes thrown each game, I do think it's fair to assume that Kyle Shanahan wants to ease Trey Lance into this, and that Trey Lance is going to be a little bit conservative as a pocket passer, as illustrated by his interception-free season there at North Dakota State, and in practices, the fact that the defense has had to challenge him to say, take these shots downfield. Don't be conservative. So it may be that what we see out of the gate, at least, is a little more of a conservative Trey Lance and a conservative Kyle Shanahan in an attempt to match that energy. Lee Ving coming in. Rob Shue, NFL needs a version of bird rights. Cap penalizes teams that make good draft picks, especially after the first round. Yes. So I was just reading up on bird rights today, which is named after Larry Bird, which is ironic because they put this rule in 1983, the first time that I think Larry Bird was set to be an unrestricted free agent, and it looked like the Boston Celtics were not going to be able to re-sign him. Very much for that same logic that you're applying here, Leaving. It's like, hey, you brought this guy, like you achieved what your goal was in drafting a quality player. Then you develop this player, and now because you chose well and you crafted that individual into a killer, now you can't re-sign them. That doesn't seem fair. You want these homegrown talents to be able to stay with their original teams. The NFL has gone the route of parity within the league. They want to have a team that goes from last place to first place, and they've done a good job of that. So they're very careful, it appears from an outside observer, me being that outside observer, that the NFL is very, very careful in attempting to maximize that parity and not do anything that might jeopardize it. So in changing something to where you could then draft a player, develop them, and re-sign them at a higher amount, that's what the bird rights are. Sorry, I should have explained that. Bird rights allow you to pay a homegrown talent more than he would have gotten paid if he went out into free agency. So with Deebo Samuel, if we took him as an example, when he got to free agency next year, if the NFL had bird rights, you would be able to pay Deebo Samuel, say 10% more than the next team would be able to pay him. again, that would mess with the parity of the NFL. So I don't know that they're going to go that route. I would like players being able to stay with the organization that drafts them, though. I'm sentimental like that, so I have to agree with you, leaving. I'd enjoy that. Lake Show. Rob, who do you think plays better with Warner, Al-Shaair or Dre Greenlaw? I loved what I saw from Azeez Al-Shaair, and so that's what I would do going forward. You have to figure out whether he's going to be made whole after 2 offseason surgeries this year before you necessarily let go of Dre Greenlaw. But again, both of those guys are scheduled to hit free agency next year. You're not going to re-sign both. So at some point, if you get a trade offer for one or the other that seems sweet, you have to let it go. Sean 9519ers is in lockstep on the Kerry Hyder above 5 sacks. He is buying that. That's a strong buy recommendation from Sean 9519ers sneakerhead here on the channel. Ellis 10, also a sneakerhead at Rob Shoe. I'm sure you've noticed the offseason media hype is magnified higher to increase views and clicks. What do you think about the Trey Lance hype, both positive and negative? It's interesting to me that it seems unfounded on both the positive and the negative. It just comes out of nowhere. You're just a random Saturday morning, someone feels like put something out, and then that original tweet or statement by someone that has really nothing backing it up gets used as evidence in other people's arguments. So you basically have something with zero relevance being used as the foundation for an entire structure built out of zero relevance. And I'm here for it because it's conversation about the San Francisco 49ers. So I don't take it very seriously, but I enjoy it. And I think more people would enjoy it if they took it less seriously. If you take it as gospel, if you believe that, that news is going to change whether Trey starts or not, then it becomes much more stressful at that point. But if you just accept that this is the slow period for the NFL, people are putting out some stories, and that we will see with our own eyes in the very near future, it becomes less stressful. Starco fan 212, Rob Shoe, any plans for July 4th? As of right now, it just occurred to me that I actually don't. I am in the midst of making some, probably going to look into playing a little bit of poker. Definitely going to be some fireworks involved. A little bit of barbecuing will happen. There will be good times. Good times. All right, agreeing with the Juice comment, taking the under. He says, Rob Shoe, Juice totally underutilized. I'm telling you. Ellis agrees. It'll be the under. Paul Salvi, I'll answer this one. I'm not going to get into details. Paul asking, Rob, do you still go on with Grant? I don't, not by my choosing, however. I was sort of ghosted by Grant in that regard. I still have no hard feelings. I have no regrets either about anything that I said. You can all go back and watch anything I said. I don't think it was unfair in any regard. Still don't hold any ill will against Grant. Still would be open to collaborating with Grant, but I do not because it's not my channel and I've not gotten the invitation anymore. All right. 916 49er at Rob Shoe. I would love to see a collab with you and John Chapman. Any chance of that? By the way, you're the man, Rob. Thank you, 916 49er. I reached out to John during last season. We talked about potentially doing a collaboration. It was busy at the moment, couldn't fit it into John's schedule. But now we're into the offseason. I will reach out again and see if that can, in fact, happen because I hear a lot of good things. All right, E. Kim. Rob, favorite offensive player in your lifetime who isn't a 49ers player? Barry Sanders. Barry frickin' Sanders. I would play Madden with the Detroit Lions because of Barry Sanders. God, that man was crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right, you feel me, Rob. Would you rather see a check down pass going for a touchdown or a bomb going for a touchdown? It depends how many broken tackles in each one. I like seeing people get trucked, and oftentimes those check down passes involve somebody getting trucked on the way to the touchdown, in particular if it's Deebo Samuel that we're talking about. So I would choose that if it involves one or two linebackers, defensive backs getting trucked by Deebo Samuel. If it is a spectacular catch on the long ball, like Danny Gray, one-handed defender draped on his back, that could be exciting as well. So it kind of depends. I think in general, my default will be whichever one involves a defender getting trucked. In general, I'm going to go for the bomb because the bomb's exciting. The ball hangs in the air for a little while. Like, will they, won't they catch it? Very exciting stuff. Very exciting stuff. Ooh, this is a good one. E. Kim coming in. Rob, mine is Walter Payton. I cannot fault you for frickin' Walter Payton on that one. Great player to watch. Schnozzle Shabizzle. Shoo! Schnozzle Shabizzle. Just because I enjoy saying it, even though it's tongue twisting me today. I don't know why. You feel me coming in with this one. Rob, I would like to see you collab with Crocker or Breezy, both cool guys. I have done the collab with Eric Crocker. Definitely plan on having him back on the show and have spoken with Wayne Breezy a couple of times. We've tried to make it happen. Monday night's tough for him, so we're looking for another one. Definitely collabing with both of those dudes. I would expect to collab with John Chapman as well. All right. I am going on to the next previously submitted question that we had coming in here. This one from Nuri. Again, we're talking about Juice. If Juice really becomes tight end 2, do you think Tyrion Davis-Price will become fullback? He has size, strength, blocking skills, and is not that much of a pass catcher. Great fit, yay or nay? I looked at the stats. Juice is listed at 6'1", 235. TDP may play a little bit lighter than that, but is currently listed as 6'1", 232. So very similar stature for the two of them. Very similar in that, yes, TDP is listed as having pass blocking skills for a rookie, but I doubt that they are comparable in that regard. To me, this actually highlights a hell of a lot more about the versatility that Coach Shanahan values within his players than it does about either one of these players playing the other position. I don't think Juice will technically be tight end 2, but he'll continue to contribute at a similar level within the offense where he'll have greater production than tight end 2 and tight end 3 combined, as he has in the last 3 or 4 years. TDP won't actually be the fullback, but Kyle will certainly use him as a heavy run blocker in certain formations, maybe where it's just him in the backfield, Deebo's out wide, and Deebo motions into the backfield. Now you have TDP as that lead blocker. So to me, it highlights the versatility that Kyle Shanahan loves to have within his offense so that he can put the same formation out there and run it 4 different frickin' ways, confusing the defense. All right, here's the question about the runs pass splits that I talked about from Swan Song. Question being, at the end of the 2022 season, do you think the 49ers will have a 50-50 split of run and pass plays? In general, within the NFL, just for precursor to this one, offenses skew towards greater passing percentages. The 49ers have historically as well underneath the Shanahan era. I went back. 2021, 51%, 51.6% passing. 2020, 58.2%. 2019, the lone season where we ran the ball more than we passed it, a passing percentage of 48.6%. So 51.4% of the time the 49ers ran the ball in 2019. 2018, that pass percentage was 57.8%. 2017, it was 61.4%. So all but 2019, the passing percentage was greater than 50%. History then tells me that 80% of the time, the Niners have passed more than they've run underneath Kyle Shanahan. But that one year was an elite run game with a phenomenal defense. I see this year's team pretty similarly in that regard. Plus, you're going to have a few carries for Trey Lance. Trey Lance has got to get a couple of rushing carries. So I'm going to say yes, the Niners do in fact hit the 50-50 mark or greater for run play percentage. That's a bold prediction in today's modern NFL. And I'm going to give myself a little wiggle room. I feel like even if it gets to 50.4% passing, I'm giving myself a slide on that one. I'm giving myself a slide as long as it's not 50.5% passing or above. I feel like that still merits the win in that regard. All right, Dan, coming back in with another question here. If Bosa is not extended this year and has a subpar season or misses significant time due to injury, what do you think is next for Bosa and the Niners? This feels like, in this hypothetical that Dan has laid out here, this feels like a recipe for a significant holdout. I doubt that Nick would feel any different about his value. He's probably right about that. Even if he had a year that he struggled in, a year wherein he had another injury, he's probably right that there's another team out there that would overpay for him and take a chance, even if it's injury. The Niners might feel differently about that. If they don't think Bosa can stay on the field for a long-term deal, they may want to pull back on the amount they're willing to commit there. I think Bosa's going to want a freaking premium deal. He's going to want to be paid as he should, as he should be. He will let his agent handle all of that end of it, of the animosity between the two sides. So it's not going to be as openly contentious as Deebo's deal got, at least not publicly. But behind closed doors, this might actually be the harder deal to get done, again, if the hypothetical situation plays out as Dan has laid it there for us. All right, True Speak coming in with this next one previously submitted, saying, although I'm confident in the safety tandem, this one is lightly edited. So I'll read the edited version first, then the full one. Although I'm confident in safety tandem of Jimmy Ward and Hufanga, if Ward misses time, I'm not sure who steps in. How concerned should we be with the safety depth? So in addition to what was there that I just read off, here's the full question. Although I'm confident in the safety tandem of Jimmy Ward and Hufanga, if Ward misses time, I'm not sure who steps in. Odom can, but not as thrilled with Hufanga and Odom. Could be a potential liability in the secondary. Then he follows up to say, how concerned should we be with the safety depth? I do think this is a valid concern for a team that is incredibly deep. This is the one area where I don't feel like the depth matches up with the need. I'd rather have an experienced player paired with Talanoa Hufanga. So sure, you could pair an athletic safety with him, put Tavarius Moore out there, but that seems suspect without a vet voice amongst the two in the pair. I look back to what happened when you didn't have a veteran voice on the field in 2021 with Talanoa Hufanga, and those were some of the uglier defensive games where we let some things behind us. George Odom could work as suggested, but both seem to be better at playing closer to the line. So you have two where their skill set isn't complementary. This hypothetical, as it's laid out, is probably the best case to be made for, again, ensuring that Dante Johnson remains on the roster. The Barnacle, again, holding on. Not only can he fill in as a cornerback, but he proved in very high-intensity moments throughout the tail end of last season that he's capable of filling in quite well at safety as well. So this is the case for the veteran presence of Dante Johnson. All right, we're getting to Martellus Bennett's and Julian Edelman's comments in just a moment. That's the next question up from John B. of the previously submitted questions. But right now, I want to get back into the chat and go through your questions that you have here. So again, if you're talking to me, put in the @Rob or @RobShoe, just so that I know you are talking to me. All right, we talked about getting the collaborations going with Eric Crocker, Wayne Breezy. We're going to make that happen. Callie Young, yes, Rob Shoe. Let's get that Shoe Nothing But Niners collaboration. Yes, I have been on the program with not Nothing But Niners. I'm thinking of Nitty Gritty Niners. There's a lot of Niners shows out there. The collabs are going to be rolling. If you've got anybody that you want me to collaborate with that I have not, and you have a suggestion, throw it out to me at 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. Also, feel free to ping that other content creator and let them know Rob Shoe is open for collaborations. I absolutely am open for collaborations. All right, looking, Starco Fan 212, Rob Shoe. How long do you think Deshaun will get suspended for, and how do you think this will affect the Browns? It appears it's going to be for a year and indefinite. So my guess is it will actually be a year. They're saying, well, it's an indefinite suspension that will be at least a year. That's a rumor that has been put out at this point. It feels like that's about right for people. All the NFL cares about, not that I'm disparaging the NFL, but I kind of am. all the NFL cares about is the bottom dollar. And they just want people to sort of put this into rear view. If details continue to come out, you could see a situation where the NFL takes more action on this. But as it stands right now, a year should allow them to get far enough away from the incidents to where they can allow Deshaun to play and not get as much of an uproar. I'm not saying that's right. You could certainly criticize that, but it will impact the Browns this year because they are a playoff caliber team. The Browns will want a starting caliber quarterback. I don't think they can make that Baker Mayfield situation work again after everything that occurred there. That bridge seems thoroughly burned in my respect, in my opinion. Jimmy seems like a prime option for the Browns. I'm just going to leave Jimmy out there right there. Ooh, E. Kim, Rob, your favorite defensive player in your lifetime who wasn't a 49er. Mine is Reggie White. Hard to fault Reggie White. I'd say Lawrence Taylor if I didn't have some pretty painful memories of the Giants going up against our 49ers. I like Reggie White. I'm going with you on this one, E. Kim. Reggie White was such a likable dude. Can't fault that freaking pick. 916 49er is on Lawrence Taylor. Hey, as long as you don't have that, as long as you don't have that hatred towards the New York Giants who took away some of our dreams there in the late 80s, early 90s, that's a good pick as well. You feel me coming in? Good question, Rob. Who's your favorite non-Niner on the offensive side? That one goes back to Barry Sanders. We got that one already. That's what kicked off the question in the first part. Lee Ving at Rob Shu, smallest sample size ever. When Mostert hit his second gear and would start to glide, those were some of the most exciting runs in recent memory. Absolutely. It was crazy to watch him hit that next gear. I always saw Raheem Mostert and his vision being his best skill, that I equated it to him being a surfer and seeing the pipeline, that he would come through that first hole and just see the line and hit it. And he was so fast when he hit that second gear. All right, I'm going to be right back to some of these questions, but I got to get to the super chat. I will be right back to those that I skip. In the meantime, Jaguile 56, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, the media never understands the 49ers inner workings, so I don't take that noise seriously. Debo problems, more wide back, guaranteed money, or other. Is his problem the issue of wanting to be the wide back or not wanting to be the wide back, the guaranteed money or other? I think guaranteed money. I think you make this right with Deebo by saying, listen, we are going to maximize your guaranteed money. We're going to put you up there with some of the best in the league as far as guaranteed money goes. For a guy like Deebo, who has had some injuries in his career, who wants to ensure that he gets what he feels he is worth, I would think that higher guaranteed money could be enough to entice him to come back to the table. If we start to hear more leaks directly from Deebo, that's a sign of trouble. I don't think we're going to. I think this deal gets done. The 49ers basically admitted they are going to come to the table when they didn't trade Deebo, and I think it's the guaranteed money. All right, Ellis 10 coming in with the super chat as well. Rob, what's your win-loss prediction for the 49ers? I'm sticking with the original of 11-6 right now, but I will do an official once we are into training camp. That'll be the official once we have a 53-man roster, once we see any injuries that may have happened, any acquisitions that may have happened. We'll get a glance of Trey Lance in preseason. So I've got 11-6, and I think I'm being conservative in being there at 11-6. When we did that exercise, Jack Hammer ended up a heck of a lot higher, like 13 or 14 wins. Crazy. Sean 9519ers, Rob Shu. We win when we run and play defense. Pass game is not dominant to win unless you have a legit quarterback like Ryan under Shanny. Run, baby, run, and control the game clock. Sean is liking my prediction of the 49ers coming close to that 50-50 mark in the run-pass dynamic. Run that ball. Leaving Rob Shu, Bosa contract will be easy. He will be the highest paid edge rusher the day he signs. I agree with the second part of that. He will be the highest paid edge rusher the day he signs. I'm not sure making someone the highest paid in the NFL is an easy thing to get done, especially for the 49ers when they are kind of a cheap organization in that regard. I mean, not really. They've given out a lot of big contracts, but they tend to get cute in the contracts that they give out. Like Parag wants to put in something that makes it a team-friendly contract, even when we're setting the market on a new player. I don't think Bosa's camp is going to fall for any of that. Great one, 765. Rob, I think it will be Ward and Moore as the safeties. Tarvarius Moore, if he comes back looking good from that Achilles injury, he was a very athletic and rangy guy. I could see that happening. Dirk Pippen just excited to have made it to the live chat, as are we. Dirk, we're a little bit behind. We're catching up, though. Raphael 5629ers, sneakerhead here on the channel saying, Rob, collab with Jesse from Last Second Sports. I definitely have collabed with Jesse in the past and open to it in the future as well. Not sure how he feels. Dr. Jaspreet at Rob Shoe watched Brock Purdy's highlights and studied his film. He's kind of like Jimmy. He has some mobility, but he gets his feet to throw. Cleats in the ground. Bottom heavy quarterback. I'm fascinated to see if he actually makes a 53-man roster and if he could unseat Nate Sudfeld. He's got to play well enough for the 49ers to warrant paying his salary and the guaranteed portion of Nate Sudfeld so that they cannot get off of the books. I think that Nate Sudfeld is probably the only backup quarterback on the roster, but Purdy outplaying him would be a great storyline. Ekim, Rob, if Bosa plays well this season and next, he'll get over 100 mil. That's a fact. Well over 100 mil, right? Ooh, going back to favorite players, Derek Thomas, great poll, Swan Song. Favorite non-49er defensive players, Swan Song coming in with Derek Thomas. Great one. Ekim pointing out that Rob, Lawrence Taylor said that the best defensive player to him was Reggie White. It is fascinating to me when these guys defer to one another. I love it. I love the humility. Peter Lee, Rob Shoe, why do you think the Niners are so invested with their hope on Hufanga becoming a successful safety? The last time they had similar safety hope was in 2018 with Adrian Colbert, and that plan failed. I don't know. This is one of the suspect areas for me. It didn't feel as if the 49ers did anything more than slap a Band-Aid on this one. Slap a Band-Aid on and pray that it works out. Not always the best plan. But hey, here we are. Jaquaski has now been signed by the frickin' Eagles. You can't bring him back. I don't know if the 49ers held that as a backup plan that we could get into training camp, and if Huff doesn't look great, we've got a backup plan. They have several Band-Aids there. George Odom, suitable. Talanoa Hufanga, suitable. Tarvarius Moore, all suitable, just none clear to come in and really take hold of that position. Hopefully I'm wrong about that. Hopefully someone comes in and does lay claim to that position. Callie, Young, Rob, who you got? Garcia or Alex Smith? That's a tough one. I like the Alex Smith story. I like the storyline of Alex Smith. And I'm not wild about some of Garcia's more recent appearances. Talent-wise, it's a hard comparison. I think peak Jeff Garcia maybe had an edge in talent. Alex Smith, man, fought through adversity and overcame it. So because of the storyline, I'm taking Alex Smith. All right, Strider 3006. Rob, let's trade Jimmy to the Browns for John Johnson III. A little safety depth without getting older. And don't forget a couple more Portland food recommendations. Strider 3006. Hit me up at 49ersmailbag@gmail.com to remind me about those Portland food recommendations. There are a lot of them. I mean, Ava Jeans is out there. Pisa Shoals. You got to hit that. If you like, oh man, there's this one spot, Zenbu Sushi. It's in Southeast, deep there. It has these jalapeno poppers that are just amazing. Spicy tuna jalapeno poppers. I mean, just imagine a jalapeno cut in half, filled with cream cheese, dumped in tempura batter, flash fried, tempura style, and then take a little bit of spicy tuna mix and just drizzle that on the top with a little bit of that sweet sauce that goes over top so many of the sushi rolls. Oh my goodness. I feel like it's the eel sauce that they put over the top. It's delightfully spicy, savory, sweet, crunchy. It's amazing. Amazing. So Zenbu gets my vote just for that one dish. Order 2 dishes, 2 of the spicy tuna jalapeno poppers. It's well worth getting them twice. I've got more. Just hit me up on email. Chris Royal coming in. Rob Shoe, a year for Watson seems right. NFL knows he's bad, yet good for NFL business. So I agree. A year puts it out far enough to make some fans forget his transgressions. I really think that's what they're all about. Buddha Graves with the question again. I did answer that earlier, so I'm not going to go for that one again, but I did answer it earlier in this program and on last week's mailbag as well, I believe. Ooh, leaving on the defender. Luke Kuechly was dynamic. Yes, he was. An early retirement was a shame. Darren coming in. Rob, how the hell do the Rams get all these big contracts all the time? Much like the 49ers, they have filled out the roster with high end and low end. And unlike the 49ers, they do not have a middle class. Matt Mayoko did a great piece on this on one of his podcasts during OTAs at some point. If you can go listen to that, it's got great insight on how there's just that little bit of difference. The Rams go all high-end contracts, all low-end contracts. The 49ers have a couple of what Matt termed as the middle-class contracts, guys that are making, in that like $3 to $7 million range. And I think the 49ers, if they're going to continue down this path, will probably trend more towards what the Rams are doing, where you have high-end and a bunch of low-end. Dr. Jaspreet coming in. Rob Shue, O-line good. O-line good, be fine, or are they going to break down and make Lance struggle? Is the O-line going to be fine and good, or will they break down? The O-line is a concern for me, one where I feel like we have significant depth, but the starters are not crystal clear. If we have Mike McGlinchey back at right tackle and we have Daniel Brunskill holding down right guard, and you're just looking at 2 positions in flux, I will feel better about that. If you have 4 positions in flux, that's rough in my estimation. All right, Dirk Pippin coming in here. Rob Shue, don't you think that having the best linebackers in the league is why 5 is less of a 9-1-1 safety is less of a 9-1-1 situation for the Niners? Yes, that does, in fact, help. And having an elite pass rush, right? I mean, the 49ers are looking to keep everything in front of them. They have improved secondary with regard to their defensive backs. They have an elite linebacker core, arguably one of the best in the league, and an elite defensive line, again, arguably one of the best in the league. So if you're going to have a weak link, having a safety position that you're unsure about when you're able to get after the passer and defend the middle of the field does feel like a weakness, but not as big of a weakness. I like that, Dirk. Peter Lee, Rob Shue, Terry McLaurin got his money bag today. Now the Niners should be on the clock soon to pay Debo. Yes, they need to pay Debo. Hi there, saying I'm getting hungry. I like that my food descriptions can make people salivate. That's a good indicator of the quality of my food recommendations. Chris Royal coming in. This is a recommendation from another Oregon native here. I'm not an Oregon native. I do live in Oregon. Chris saying, for sweets, hit up Voodoo Donuts. Yes, I will tell you, the mark of a good donut place is their plain glazed donuts. And Voodoo has really stepped up their game on their plain glazed. I do enjoy Voodoo Donuts, and it's a Portland institution. So you kind of have to go there just to check it off of the list. Caligula, Rob, players come and go, nothing new. But what do you think of the staff leaving the Niners? That's remarkable. What does this mean for you? It's happened year in and year out. And I've commented on this in past mailbags that I believe I have to put some faith in Kyle Shanahan for this one because he has repeatedly shown us that he can hire the right people, groom them to be quality assistants, quality coaches, and then see them off on their merry way to go to bigger, bolder positions with other teams and do it all over again. So until Kyle Shanahan misses on one of those replacements, I got to give him the benefit of the doubt. I love the Anthony Lynn hire in particular when you have the loss of Mike McDaniel and Bobby Turner. Anthony Lynn feels like a clutch one to bring in. Leaving with this is a clarification. The question earlier was brought up of Garcia versus Alex Smith. Leaving saying, Rob Shue, Garcia for grit, Alex for sticking it out after Nolan Singletary. A tie? That feels fair. That does feel fair. All right, looking again for a couple of these last questions before I go back into the previously submitted ones. Here we go. Favorite players from Great One. These are Niners, Jerry Rice and Deion Sanders. I guess you could pick Deion Sanders as a non-Niner technically since he only had the 1 year. E. Kim, Rob, this Rams move, the Rams move on from their mistakes like Goff quickly. The 49ers do not. So that's in answer to that question of how are the Rams and the 49ers different in that regard. And that's fair. They did eat some of that salary for Goff, which the Niners have been unwilling to do so far. Just saying, coming in with the Trailblazers news before we get back to a 49er question, I promise. Rob, Durant to Portland? What's up with that? Is that fake news? Damian Lillard put out an Instagram photo of he and Kevin Durant in Trailblazers gear a couple of days ago, but that was before Kyrie had signed into the players option. I think the likelihood of Durant to Portland has decreased since Dame put that picture out. And great one is with me on the non-Niner offensive player, Barry Sanders. This is his pick. Mine as well. Their pick, I should say. I'm with you. Great one, 765. Barry Sanders is my pick. Non-49er favorite offensive player from my era. All right, we're getting into a previously submitted question now. This one is the shots fired at Jimmy G. Again, lightly edited on screen. Do you believe the comments by Martellus Bennett about Jimmy G, which were essentially confirmed by Julian Edelman, are one of the contributing factors that help the 49ers? Are they one of the contributing factors that help the 49ers to move off of Jimmy? So in other words, do the 49ers feel similarly to what's being expressed here? So I will answer the first part of that about the comments made, that I believe the comments. I believe that Martellus Bennett meant this when he said it. And I thought Julian Edelman basically confirmed it. You know, I believe that Jimmy Garoppolo made a business decision not to play back in 2016. The facts do seem to indicate that he made that choice later in the week than his teammates would have liked. That feels very fair to criticize. Feels fair to criticize Jimmy Garoppolo for making that decision later in the week if you are his teammate that's putting your body on the line. Martellus Bennett, Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman specifically referenced, getting shots to, get back on the field himself, but Jimmy made that decision late. However, do I fault Jimmy Garoppolo for making a business decision at all? Hell no. Hell no. Get your money. The NFL is short-lived. He hadn't gotten paid yet. It worked. He got a $137 million contract. So yeah, I'm sure he's okay being called a bitch and laughing all the way to the bank. Neither Bennett nor Edelman did sniff his career earnings. Jimmy's not done earning. They're both done earning, and their earnings are not real comparable. The estimated earnings from Spotrac.com, Edelman over 13 seasons, $46 million. Bennett over 10 seasons, $34 million. Garoppolo over 8 seasons and still going, $114 million. So he's more than doubled the financial output of Julian Edelman over 5 fewer frickin' seasons. So are they perhaps jealous that they fought through injury and he's the pretty boy that got paid? Maybe. I mean, that's human nature. That's well within human nature. Perhaps he wasn't a great teammate when he was there in New England. Maybe he hadn't expressed his personality to the locker room. They didn't know him, and this was the only taste of Jimmy Garoppolo that they had, a guy who wasn't willing to play when they needed him. So maybe it was a legitimate beef. But overall, taking these comments to mean that Jimmy Garoppolo isn't tough, I feel like his play at the end of last year through those 2 injuries would seem to indicate otherwise, at least balances out the toughness question. No one in our locker room has ever questioned his toughness. So I'm not believing it as a current issue for our team. All right, this one was an either or hypothetical that came in from Swan Song. I'm going to have to read this out to you because I couldn't fit the stats on the screen. But here are the 2 hypotheticals. Which regular season would you rather have? You got to listen closely to this one. These are 2 statistical seasons for Trey Lance. The first one, 3,700 yards, 28 touchdowns, 12 picks, 400 yards rushing, 5 rushing touchdowns. The Niners end up with a 13-4 season. They're the NFC West champions, and they're second in the NFC seeding. So they're the second seed. The defense ranks 3rd in the NFL. Or Trey Lance gets 4,000 yards throwing, 34 touchdowns, 10 picks, 600 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. The 49ers end up with a slightly worse record at 12-5. They're still the NFC West champs, and they are still the 2 seed but the defense is ranked 5th in the NFL. So either a better statistical season for Trey and the defense is ranked 5th, or a worse statistical season and the defense is ranked 3rd. My gut says to take the better defense because defense wins championships. But that's old school thinking, right? Lately, it seems that elite quarterbacks win championships. The second hypothetical is still a great defense and one that had to defend more plays potentially because our offense scores more. There are potentially more possessions that we have to defend. Every time we kick off, we have to defend that possession. So I'm taking the transcendent quarterback in the second set of stats. Trey Lance with 34 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 6 rushing touchdowns. That would be an amazing season for Trey. He's the future. I will take that hypothetical swan song. I love the question. All right, I got a couple more that came in last minute, but I will get to them. I do want to get to your questions here in the chat as well. All right. Looking for that at Rob Shoe. We got another vote for Barry Sanders. Barry's the GOAT. Love that, Randall. Absolutely agree. Ooh, looking at players from the NBA to watch. Gary Payton was insane to watch. Dirk's favorite. All right, here we go. Hello, Moto comes in. Rob, hello, Moto. Rob, do you think the Sharks can bounce back next year? It is tough for me to predict what the Sharks will do. I know very little about NHL. So I say yes, absolutely, they can bounce back. Why not? Everybody has a shot at redemption in the offseason. Leaving Rob Shoe was the context that Jimmy was the Pats quarterback of the future in that instance. So in looking at the criticism of Jimmy Garoppolo, would it be any different if they were looking at him as the quarterback of the future? Yeah, that could certainly get you to say, you know what, we want to move on to someone who puts the organization above all else, is willing to go back out there. But I think if he had the talent to where they saw him as the starter, that simply making one business decision probably would not, they wouldn't rip that away from him for that. All right, looking for a couple of those last submissions. We still got a couple of questions previously submitted to get to. Leaving at Rob Shoe. Don't care about Trey's stats. Just want him to have time to improve. He's still pretty much a rookie. Agree with that I will take the team that goes further, but I do think we will go as far as Trey Lance can take us. I think quarterback is the answer for the 49ers in this one. Ernesto coming in from another team. I got to give you credit, though. There's no trash talk. It's just love. Ernesto coming in. Love your show, Rob, but go Rams. I can't say it with enthusiasm as your exclamation points would indicate because I just can't say go Rams with anything other than a flat voice. But I respect the fact that, Ernesto, you've come on and are very polite in your rooting for your own team. I respect that. Ooh, Callie Young. I like this one. Rob Shoe, my favorite non-49er quarterback, Steve McNair. Dude, I loved watching. Speaking of the Rams, that Super Bowl, I was totally pulling for Steve McNair. And was that Kevin Dyson who stretched out and came within 1 freaking yard of the goal line to beat the Rams, but couldn't? Oh, man, rough. I was rooting for McNair in that one. All right, getting to some of these last submitted questions here. This one was out of the blue, so you can't fault me for it, all right? I'm still struggling on this one. Who would be on your 49ers Mount Rushmore? They all do not need to have, they don't need to be players. So any 49ers can be within the organization, the Mount Rushmore. All right, so this was a late addition, not super well thought out. For me, my childhood heroes have to be on there. Joe, Jerry, and Ronnie Lott. Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Ronnie Lott. Those are unquestionable. You can criticize me all you want for not having someone else on there. Those 3 have to be on my Mount Rushmore. The other one is tough. I like that I was freed up to go non-player. If it's a player, I probably go Steve Young, but I would really be sad not to have Frank Gore on there. But if we're going non-player, again, those 3 are just locks for me. They just are. Non-player, I got to go either Bill Walsh or Eddie D. Part of me wants to go Eddie D for the fact that he brought everything all together. Part of me feels that it's crazy to leave Bill Walsh off of there. It is a terrible conundrum to find myself in. I'm going Bill Walsh. But on a different day, I might have said Eddie D. And I'll be interested between if you were locked in on three of them and the last spot was going Bill Walsh or Eddie D, who would get your vote? Just between those two. Don't bring in other candidates. I want to see in the chat where the vote goes between Bill Walsh or Eddie DeBartolo. What's more important, the guy who designed the offense or the guy who was able to put the team together, the guy who found Bill Walsh? That's tough. The last one that I had to bring in before I get back into the chat was just a good one from Big Dig coming in. Big Dig said, my question is, will the gods please let me be in the live chat? You and Jack Hammer were fire yesterday. The watermelon had me cracking up. If you missed it, I was on with Jack Hammer on his program. Great program over there on his channel. And he had a teachable moment with his son revolving around cutting a watermelon. It was a delightful parenting moment in which I got to make fun of the fact that I'm sure I provided my parents with a lot of teachable moments in my childhood. And he comes back in to say, Big Dig does. Rewatching is a blessing. Don't get me wrong. I just wish I could have caught that live. Well, I hope that you are able to catch some of those live. I'm going to finish this one out in the chat with the live comments. I'm interested to see people saying the Mount Rushmore comments. All right, here we go. People are saying Jerry Rice. Yeah, Jerry is in there. We've got a mention for Steve Smith as favorite offensive player. I can't fault that. He is one of the first names that popped into my mind as well. He really was. 420 Savage came in with the Steve Smith call out. Christopher Keith talking about defenders that weren't on the Niners. Charles Woodson and Charles Haley. He played more years in Dallas than San Francisco. All right. Here we go for a non-Niner. Strider 3006. Rob, favorite non-Niner was Peyton Manning. Dude helped me for 5 years straight in fantasy football. That's a good reason to get with the players. They're helping your fantasy team. All right. I got a super chat. I got to get to that first, but I'll be coming back in. Chris Royal with the super chat. Favorite non-49ers offense, Calvin Megatron Johnson. Great poll. Can't fault Calvin Johnson. Another guy retired too soon in Detroit. Defense, Brian Urlacher. Chicken or the egg? I'd take Eddie D, baby. Oh, this is the question of between Bill and Eddie. Chris is going Eddie D on that one. And it is a chicken or the egg question. Which came first? Which one is greater? That's a tough one. I like those picks, Chris. I absolutely like those picks. People are agreeing. Has to be those three. I'm telling you. And then the votes start coming in. We got a vote for Walsh. We've got Callie saying Pat Willis needs to be on there. I agree. Patrick Willis and Frank Gore not being on there hurts me. And because I grew up in the 80s, it just is what it is. Callie saying his vote goes to Walsh. Great one says Rice, Montana, and Walsh. I like that. 4 go up there. 4 total on there. 3 is not enough. That is true. Randall Riley says, Bill Walsh with the offense everyone used forever. How do you not make it Walsh in that regard? Again, another vote coming back in, Callie, for Walsh. All right, Jaguile 56. Rob, I would rather have better defense. We will have a 1,000-yard rusher and 3 with 500-plus yards rushers. 3 500-plus yard rushers. So 1 1,000-yard rusher, 3 people who have more than 500 yards. That's a powerful argument. The question becomes the difference between the 5th and the 3rd ranked defense. I want to see that little bit for Trey. I can't fault you for this one, though, Jaguile. It was a tough call going back and forth between those. I like this foursome up there on Mount Rushmore. Caligula, Rice, Lott, Young, Gore. Can't fault it. Y.A. Tittle. Dirk is going back to the $1 million backfield. Y.A. Tittle. Randall Riley saying Walsh because of the West Coast offense. Raphael 5629ers in on Walsh. 420 Savage, Walsh. Tom Jensen, Walsh changed the game. That's a fact. That is a fact. Mr. Randy says Rice, Young, in Montana. Randall saying, love Eddie D, though, so it's tough. I'm telling you, it is real tough. Great one saying, it's a no-brainer, my G. Rice, Montana, Walsh, can't be another way. Yeah, Ronnie Lott on there, too, because you get 4, so I'm saying Ronnie Lott in there. Sorry, just laughing to myself about comments. All right, here we go. Another one, easy. Montana, Rice, Young, and Lott. That one, if you're going purely players, I think that's my fearsome foursome up there. When you throw in the idea that you can have a non-player in there, that's where it gets a little more interesting for me. That's where I do want to bring in either Bill Walsh or Eddie D. I had the opportunity to shake Eddie D's hand. I'm not shaking Bill Walsh's hand. I will no longer have that opportunity. Ellis 10 bringing up Walsh. Just saying, Walsh. I am. There are a lot of votes for Walsh. I think that wins. I think Walsh coming in is the winner there on the 4 spot on Mount Rushmore. So for me, then we are going Rice, Montana, Ronnie Lott, and Bill Walsh to round it out. That's the fearsome foursome up there on Mount Rushmore. This has been a fantastic show. I appreciate all of you being here. I love the fact that there's a Harris Barton reference. I was telling someone the other day that I was at Ronnie Lott and Joe Montana's induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and it was, in fact, Harris Barton who drank me under the table one of those nights. So yes, shout out to Harris Barton. The reason I was never able to drink a gin and tonic again in my life. I appreciate everybody being here. If you enjoyed the show as Raphael5629er did, please hit that like button on your way out. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do consider subscribing. I will be back on tomorrow with Random McMahon between 2 beards, and I am excited about it. Deebo, I mean, I gotta throw up the super chat. Da Buddha came in to say sorry. I just came into the chat. I'm completing the sentence there just so that I didn't have to end that sentence as it was written. But thank you for that. Thank you, everyone who has been here. I appreciate everybody. This has been a great show. I always love the freaking mailbag. I will be back on with Randon McMahon. Thank you to everyone for contributing, especially those asking the questions in the chat and those that sent in the previously submitted questions as well. I look forward to the mailbag every single week because of all of you. Thank you very much. I will see you all again tomorrow. Until then, cheers.